for you. There'll be no more crying for you. The sun will be shining, 'cause I feel that when I'm with you, it's all right. I know it's right to you. I give the world to you. I'll never be cold, 'cause I feel that when I'm with you, it's all right. I know it's right. And the songbird keeps singing like he knows the score. And I love you, I love you, I love you like never before. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Aunty Andrea's Reading Corner. I am your delightful host, Andrea. I did that for Emily because she asked and actually requested that. I think it was over a month ago. So I thought, you know what? Tonight's a good night to do that because I wanted to express my love and adoration for all of you. Phil, hi, hun. Emily, you were here for this. Oh, you see what? That was meant to be, darling. Because I've had in the back of my head that you asked me to sing that. I did a little excerpt. I did a very small version of it. And actually, I wasn't even going to sing. I just sat down and big fat did it because I thought, oh shit, I better do that song because I wanted to one day do it. Anyway, so I love you, Emily. That was just for you and for all of you. It really is. When you think about the words of that song, it's such a beautiful, the sentiment is, for you, I wish everything good, and the sun will always shine, and you'll never have to cry, and I'm always going to be so grateful because when I'm around you, I feel so happy, and that's how I feel when I'm with all of you. I'm in a really good mood. I'm super happy today, as always, but just a little bit extra happy today, maybe. And so I'm really happy to see you here. Phil, good to see you. I know you usually check in from time to time, but it's good to see you here at the top of the show. Let me see what's going on. Well, Halloween happened this weekend. That was super fun. I had a great time. Dressed up. I think you all saw my pictures. Thank you for, hey, Megan. Good to see you, babe. Yeah, you saw my pictures from how I went way overboard on getting dressed. I noticed actually a lot of people didn't get all that dressed up, but I was really impressed to see people out. The parents were out. I handed out candies at my cousin Michelle's up in Lynn Valley while she was wandering the streets with my nephews. And then they came back and I brought games and we played some wonderful games and it was just small, intimate, but still really fun and interactive, and I just had a ball. Anytime I get the center stage in an outfit, I'm fucking all over it. So that was great, and thank you for all your wonderful comments. That made me feel really good that you guys liked my outfit. My Auntie Nancy said today, Andrea, you should be on the stage. I'm like, don't fucking encourage me. I do not need the encouragement. I will be. That's the next step for me, guys. I'm going to be on the center stage. Not Broadway, but maybe Granville. What else is going on? Let me see. Oh, I just wrapped up a renovation project today. That's why I'm in such a good mood. A really good friend of mine I used to work with reached out to me. I don't think he'll mind me telling this story. It's a touching story, and it's how I just love how I get these beautiful opportunities to help people. And he reached out to me. His father passed away 3 years ago, and sadly, he and his sister were in this horrible battle against his ex-girlfriend who didn't even live with him, and she was just being greedy and mean, and really it was just a shitty thing to do to them. They won ultimately. They got the condo, they got everything that their father left behind. So in his untimely death, and Joey's he's 30 now. At the time he was 27. Anyway, he reached out to me and he asked, Andy, he says, you're the only one I trust. This is kind of what you do. Would you help me renovate my dad's condo so I can get it on the market and we can sell it? Because they really just wanted to unload it and move on with their lives. So essentially I said, give me the keys, leave it to me. And I just big fat did it. And it took me 2 months from beginning to end. I'm so proud. The result was amazing. My contractor is the best contractor on the planet. I just went today for the final kind of check, and all the staging was done already. I wish I could post the pictures. I mean, I could. I don't think you guys would care. But I just am so happy. And you know what's the part for me that makes me so happy is they are so happy. Joey and his sister Justine. Like, they're just so grateful that I could help them and take it off their shoulders and turn this horrible situation into a plus. And you know what? I'm just so happy. I'm like, now, you know anybody who needs a condo renovated under shitty circumstances? Let me know. I'm your girl. Natasha, hi, babe. Good to see you. I was just talking about the condo I wrapped up. Amanda, hi, babe. Hero, good to see you. Sorry, I was babbling away, and I think I've got everybody. So anyway, great day. It was all wrapped up. They're happy. I'm happy. And now Joey's aunt wants me to do her house. So I'm going to do that. I see my Andrea Markham property and project management is going to be on my next goal. Anyway, I'm not going to waste a lot of time. Adele, hi, baby. Good to see you. Carolyn, good to see you. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to get right into the book because, well, I've got other things I got to do, to be honest with you, so I won't waste too much more time on the monologue part, but thank you again for joining me, as always. Oh, thanks, hon. It's the same makeup I always wear. I've just got braids instead of ponytails today. I was getting tired of the ponytails, and my hair is greasy, just being honest. I've been busy. I'm a busy businesswoman here. Anywho's, moving along. We are going to be enjoying more of our delightful tale, The BFG, written by Roald Dahl. If you remember last time, if you were with me or if you caught up. And also, just wanted to let you know, if you're ever looking to catch up on the videos, in case you don't feel like searching through my Facebook videos and stuff, you can subscribe to me on YouTube. All the videos are there since Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret? So Are You There, Goddess Me Margaret is there, The Witches is there, and all of this one is here. Gary, hi, good to see you, babe. So you can go online there. Is Andrea Pandrea. That's what you look for. And you'll find me, subscribe, and then anytime I post an updated video, it'll let you know that I've done that, and you can go ahead and watch it, okay? So just wanted to point that out because I go to that. I hadn't downloaded the last 3, so I was frantically doing that before tonight so I could make room to record this one. So anyway, here we go. If you remember, the BFG has Sophie, and she was asking him what he eats, if he doesn't eat humans. So, yeah, have a sip. Cheers, everybody. Happy November. Sorry, one last point. Let's remember that November 11 is coming soon, Remembrance Day, and the people selling poppies and stuff aren't going to be out in full force like they have been in recent years, so seek them out. I actually thought about arranging something, but honestly, I just don't have the time. Michelle, hi, babe. My cousin Michelle just checked in. Cheers, honey. Adele. Clink. Chin, chin. Anyway, yeah, make sure you get a poppy. Make sure you support your local legions and all the people who are doing their best to get out there in these circumstances with COVID. I was actually thinking about getting a mask that has a poppy on it. I didn't know if that was disrespectful or not. So I think bottom line, just make sure you get a poppy and donate whatever money you can to the cause. And of course, remember those who have given their lives so that we can have our lives that are actually quite blessed despite current circumstances. So let's keep that in mind. Love you all. Here we go with the chapter Snoz Cumbers. And by the way, I only pre-read half of this, so with all the tongue-twisting words, you're going to have to forgive me if I don't get them all bang on. Okay, here we go. But if you don't eat people like all the others, Sophie said, then what do you live on? That is a squelching, tricky problem about here, said the BFG. In this slosh-flunking giant country, happy eats like pineapples and pigwinkles is simply not growing. Nothing is growing except for one extremely icky-poo vegetable. It's called the snozcumber. The snozcumber? Cried Sophie. There's no such thing. The BFG looked at Sophie and smiled, showing about 20 of his square white teeth. Yesterday, he said, we was not believing in giants, was we? Today we is not believing in snozzcumbers. Just because we happen to not have to actually seen something with our own two little winkles, we think it is not existing. What about, for instance, the great squizzly Scotch hopper? I beg your pardon, Sophie said. And the humplecrimp. What's that? Sophie asked. And the rap rascal. The what? Sophie asked. And the crumpscottle. Are they animals? Sophie asked. Hey, Mel. Good to see you, honey. They is common animals, said the BFG contemptuously. I is not a very know-all giant myself, but it seems to me that you is an absolutely know-nothing human being. Your brain is full of rotten wool. You mean cotton wool, Sophie said. What I mean and what I say is two different things, the BFG announced rather grandly. What I mean and what I say is two different things, said the BFG rather grandly. I will now show you a snozzcumber. The BFG flung open a massive cupboard and took out the weirdest looking thing Sophie had ever seen. It was about half as long again as an ordinary man, but was much thicker. It was as thick around its girth as a perambulator. It was black with white stripes along its length, and it was covered all over with coarse knobbles. Knobbles can be fun. Here is the repulsant snozzcumber, cried the BFG, waving it about. I squoggle it. I mispise it. I desponge it. Haley, hi, babe. Good to see you. I haven't seen you in ages. But because I is refusing to gobble up human beings like the other giants, I might spend my life guzzling up icky poo snozzcumbers instead. If I don't, I will be nothing but skin and groans. You mean skin and bones, Sophie said. I know it's bones, the BFG said. But please understand that I cannot be helping it if I is sometimes saying things a little squiggly. I is trying my very best all the time. The big friendly giant looked suddenly so forlorn that Sophie got quite upset. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't mean to be rude. There never was any schools to teach me talking in giant country, the BFG said sadly. But couldn't your mother have taught you? Sophie asked. My mother, cried the BFG. Giants don't have mothers. Surely you is knowing that. I did not know that, Sophie said. Who ever heard of a woman giant? Shouted the BFG, waving the snozzcumber around his head like a lasso. There never was a woman giant, and there never will be one. Giants is always men. Sophie felt herself getting a little muddled. Well, in that case, she said, how were you born? Giants isn't born, the BFG answered. Giants appears, and, well, that's all there is to it. They simply appears, the same way as the sun and the stars. And when did you appear? Sophie asked. Now, how on earth could I be knowing a thing like that? Said the BFG. It was so long ago, I couldn't count. You mean you don't even know how old you are? No giant is knowing that, the BFG said. All I is knowing about myself is that I is very old, very, very old and crumply, perhaps as old as the earth. What happens when a giant dies? Sophie asked. Giants is never dying, the BFG answered. Sometimes, and quite suddenly, a giant is disappearing and nobody is ever knowing where he goes to. But mostly, us giants is simply going on and on like whiffsy time twiddlers. The BFG was still holding the awesome snozzcumber in his right hand, and now he put one end into his mouth and bit off a huge hunk of it. He started crunching it up, and the noise he made was like the crunching of lumps of ice. Oh, it's filthing, he sputtered, speaking with his mouth full and spraying large pieces of snozzcumber like bullets in Sophie's direction. Sophie hopped around on the tabletop, ducking out of the way. Hey, Zach. Hi, good to see you, babe. It's disgruntrous. Disguntrous, the BFG gurgled. It's sickable. It's rotsome. It's maggot-wise. Try it yourself, this foulsome snozzcumber. Oh, no thank you, Sophie said, backing away. It's all you're going to be guzzling around here from now on, so you might as well get used to it, said the BFG. Go on, you snipsy little winkle. Have a go. Sophie took a small nibble. Ugh, she sputtered. Oh, no. Oh, gosh. Oh, help. She spat it out quickly. It tastes of frog skins, she gasped, and rotten fish. Worse than that, cried the BFG, roaring with laughter. To me it's tasting of clog roaches and slime wagglers. Do we really have to eat it? Sophie said. Well, you do, unless you's wanting to become so thin you would be disappearing into a thick ear. You mean into thin air, Sophie said. A thick ear is quite something else. Once again, that sad, winsome look came into the BFG's eyes. Words, he said. Oh, words is such a tickling problem to me all my life. So you must simply try to be patient and stop quibbling. As I am telling you before, I know exactly what words I am wanting to say, but somehow or other they is always getting squiddled around. Well, that happens to everyone, Sophie said. Not like it happens to me, the BFG said. I is speaking the most terrible Wiglish. I think you speak beautifully, Sophie said. You do? Cried the BFG, suddenly brightening. You really do? Simply beautifully, Sophie repeated. Well, that is the nicest present anybody has ever given me in my whole life, said the BFG. Are you sure you's not twiddling my leg? Of course not, Sophie said. I just love the way you talk. Well, how wonderscrump. Michelle Kirby, Christopher, hi, good to see you guys. Thanks for joining me. How wonderscrump, cried the BFG, still beaming. How whoopsie splunkers. How absolutely squiffling. Eyes all of a stutter. Listen, Sophie said, we don't have to eat snozzcumbers. In the fields around our village, there are all sorts of lovely vegetables, like cauliflowers and carrots. Why don't you go get some of those next time you go visiting? The BFG raised his great head proudly in the air. I is a very honorable giant, he said. I would rather be chewing up rotsome snozzcumbers than snitching things from other people's. Well, you stole me, Sophie said. I did not steal you very much, said the BFG, smiling gently. After all, you is only a tiny little girl. The blood bottler. This one's a tough one, so forgive me if I muck up the words. I better wet my whistle. Mm-hmm. Christina, good to see you. Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. The blood bottler. Suddenly, a tremendous thumping noise came from outside the cave entrance, and a voice like thunder shouted, Runt! Is you there, Runt? I is hearing you jabbling. Who is you jabbling to, Runt? Look out, cried the BFG. It's the blood bottler. But before he had finished speaking, the stone was rolled aside and a 50-foot giant, more than twice as tall and wide as the BFG, came striding into the cave. He was naked except for a dirty little piece of cloth around his bottom. Sophie was on the tabletop. The enormous partly eaten snozzcumber was lying near her. She ducked behind it. The creature came clumping into the cave and stood towering over the BFG. Who was you jabbling to in here just now? He boomed. I was jabbling to myself, the BFG answered. Piffle fizz, shouted the blood bottler. Bug swallop, he boomed. You is talking to a human being, that's what I is thinking. No, no, cried the BFG. Yes, yes, boomed the blood bottler. I is guessing you has snitched away a human being and brought it back to your bunghole as a pet. Bunghole. I just got that, sorry. So now I is winkling it out of you, guzzling it as extra snacks before my supper. The poor BFG was very nervous. There's no one in here, he stammered. Why don't you just leave me alone? The blood bottler pointed a finger as large as a tree trunk at the BFG. Runty little scum screwer, he shouted. Piffling little swish figgler, squimpy little bottlewort, prunty little pog swizzler. I is now going to search the primroses. Grabbed the BFG by the arm. And you is going to help me do it. Us together is going to winkle out this tasteful little human being, he shouted. The BFG had intended to whisk Sophie off the table as soon as he got the chance and hide her behind his back. But now there was no hope of doing this. Sophie peered around the chewed-off end of the enormous nosecumber, watching the two giants as they moved away down the cave. The blood bottler was a gruesome sight. Oh, shit. Tenants. They love to catch me at 8 o'clock at night. Hey, Andrea, I just wanted to let you know about this little thing while I'm sitting here finishing my dinner. Anyway, where was I? Hang on. He intended blah, 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 but now there was no hope of this. Sophie peered around the chewed-off end of the enormous nosecumber, watching the two giants as they moved away down the cave. The blood bottler was a gruesome sight. His skin was reddish-brown. There was black hair sprouting on his chest and arms and on his stomach. The hair on his head was long and dark and tangled. His foul face was round and squashy looking. See, and by the way, this is why I need podcast equipment, because I don't want to use my fucking phone anymore. Sorry, pardon my French, but this is so frustrating to me. Because, I'm on a roll, right? I should put out a notice. Don't ever contact me or text me or in any way between these hours on Mondays and Thursdays. Anywho, like I was saying. His skin was reddish-brown. There was black hair sprouting on his chest and arms and on his stomach. The hair on his head was long and dark and tangled. His foul face was round and squashy looking. The eyes were tiny black holes. The nose was small and flat. But the mouth was huge. It spread right across the face, almost ear to ear. And it had lips that were like two gigantic purple frankfurters. Frankfurters, where the hell is it? Lying out on top of one another. Craggy yellow teeth stuck out between the two purple frankfurter lips, and rivers of spit ran down over his chin. Whoa. It was not in the least difficult to believe that this ghastly brute ate men, women, and children every night. The blood bottler, still holding the BFG by the arm, was examining the rows and rows of bottles. You and your pibbling bottles, he shouted. What is you putting in them? Nothing that would interest you, the BFG answered. You is only interested in guzzling human beings. Holy shit. This is literally a different one. Okay. And you as dotty as a dog swoggler, cried the blood bottler. Soon the blood bottler would be coming back, Sophie told herself, and he was bound to search the tabletop. But she couldn't possibly jump off the table. It was 12 feet high. She'd break a leg. The snozzcumber, although it was as thick as a perambulator, was not going to hide her if the blood bottler picked it up. She examined the chewed-off end. It had large seeds in the middle, each one as big as a melon. They were embedded in soft, slimy stuff. Taking care to stay out of sight, Sophie reached forward and scooped away half a dozen of these seeds. This left a hole in the middle of the snozzcumber, large enough for her to crouch in so long as she rolled herself up into a ball. She crawled into it. It was a wet and slimy hiding place. But what did that matter if it was going to save her from being eaten? The blood bottler and the BFG were coming back now. The BFG was nearly fainting with fear. Any moment, he was telling himself, Sophie would be discovered and eaten. Suddenly, the blood bottler grabbed the half-eaten snozzcumber. The BFG stared at the bare table. Sophie, where is you? He thought desperately. You cannot possibly be jumping off the high table. So where is you hiding, Sophie? So this is the filthing, rotsome glubbage you is eating, boomed the blood bottler, holding up the partly eaten snozzcumber. You must be cockless to be guzzling such rub squash. For a moment, the blood bottler seemed to have forgotten about his search for Sophie. The BFG decided to lead him further off the track. That is the scrum-diddly-umptious snozzcumber, he said. I is guzzling it gleefully every night and day. Is you never having tried a snozzcumber, blood bottler? Human beings is juicier, the blood bottler said. Ah, you is talking Rommy tot, the BFG said, growing braver by the second. He was thinking that if only he could get the blood bottler to take one bite of the repulsive vegetable, the sheer foulness of its flavor would send him bellowing out of his cave. I is happy to let you sample it, the BFG went on. But please, when you see how truly glumptuous it is, do not be guzzling the whole thing. Leave me a little snitchet for my supper. The blood bottler stared suspiciously with small piggy eyes at the snozzcumber. Sophie, crouching inside the chewed-off end, began to tremble all over. You is not switch-fiddling me, is ye? Said the blood bottler. Never, cried the BFG passionately. Take a bite, and I am positive you will be shouting out, oh, how scrumdiddly-umptious this wonderveg is. Wonderveg. The BFG could see the greedy blood bottler's mouth beginning to water more than ever at the prospect of extra food. Vegetables is very good for you, he went on. It is not healthsome always to be eating meaty things. Just this once, the blood bottler said. I is going to taste these rotsome meats of yours, but I is warning you that if it is filthsome, I is smashing it over your sludgy little head. He picked up the snozzcumber. He began raising it on its long journey to his mouth, some 50 feet up in the air. Sophie wanted to scream, don't, but that would have been an even more certain death. Crouching among the slimy seeds, she felt herself being lifted up and up and up. Suddenly, there was a crunch as the blood bottler bit a huge hunk off the end. Sophie saw his yellow teeth clamping together a few inches from her head. Then there was utter darkness. She was in his mouth. She caught a whiff of his evil-smelling breath, the stank of bad meat. Oh, she waited for the teeth to go crunch once more. She prayed that she would be killed quickly. Ah! roared the blood bottler. Blech! Yeah! And then he spat. All the great lumps of snozzcumber that were in his mouth, as well as Sophie herself, went shooting out across the cave. Aaliyah! Hi, hon! If Sophie had struck the stony wall of the cave, she would most certainly have been killed. Instead, she hit the soft folds of the BFG's black cloak hanging against the wall. She dropped to the ground, half stunned. She crawled under the hem of the cloak, and there she crouched. You little swine bugler, roared the blood bottler. You little pig swiller. He rushed to the BFG and smashed what was left of the snozzcumber over his head. Fragments of the filthy vegetable splashed all over the cave. You is not loving it? The BFG asked instantly, rubbing his head. Loving it, yelled the blood bottler. That is the most disgustrous taste that I have ever touching my teeth. You must be buggles to be swallowing sludge like that. Every night you could be galloping off, happy as a hamburger, and gobbling juicy human beans. Eating human beans is wrong and evil, the BFG said. It is guzzly and glumptious, shouted the blood bottler. And tonight I is galloping off to Chile to swallow a few human chili beans. Is you wishing to know why I choose Chile? I is not wishing to know anything, the BFG said, very dignified. I is choosing Chile, the blood bottler said, because I is fed up with the taste of Eskimos. I is important. I has plenty of cold eats in this scuttling hot weather, and the next coldest thing to an Eskimo is a chili bean. Human beans from Chile is very chilly. Horrible, the BFG said. You ought to be ashamed. Other giants is all saying that they is wanting to gallop off to England tonight to guzzle school chittlers, the blood bottler said. I is very fond indeed of English school chittlers. They has a nice inky booky flavor. Perhaps I will change my mind and go to England with them. You is disgusting, the BFG said. And you is an insult to the giant peoples, shouted the blood bottler. You is not fit to be a giant. You is a squinky little squiddler. You is a pibbling little pipsqueak. You is a cream puff nut. With that, the horrible blood-bottling giant strode out of the cave. The BFG ran to the cave entrance and quickly rolled the stone back into place. Sophie, he whispered. Sophie, where is you, Sophie? Sophie emerged from under the hem of the black cloak. I'm here, she said. The BFG picked her up and held her tenderly in the palm of his hand. Oh, I am so happy to be finding you all in one lump, he said. I was in his mouth, Sophie said. You was what? Cried the BFG. Sophie told him what happened. And there I was telling him to eat the filthsome snogscumber, and you was all the time inside it, the BFG cried. Not much fun, Sophie said. Oh, just look at you, you poor little chiddler, cried the BFG. You is all covered in snogscumber and giant spit. He set about cleaning her up as best as he could. Oh, I is hating those other giants now more than ever, he said. You know what I should like? What? Sophie said. I should like to find a way of disappearing them. I should like to find a way of disappearing them, every single one. Well, I'd be glad to help you, Sophie said. Let me see if I can think of a way of doing it. Where are we? 801. Okay, I'll do one more. Frobscobble and Whizpoppers. Hang on, let me just see how long this is. Yeah, okay. By now, Sophie was beginning to feel not only extremely hungry, but very thirsty as well. Had she been at home, she would have finished her breakfast long ago. Are you sure there's nothing else to eat around here except those disgusting, smelly snogscumbers? She said. Not even a fizzwinkle, answered the big friendly giant. Well, in that case, may I please have a little water? She said. Water, said the BFG, frowning mightily. What's water? We drink it, Sophie said. What do you drink? Frobscottle, announced the BFG. All giants is drinking frobscottle. Is it as nasty as your snogscumbers? Sophie asked. Nasty, cried the BFG. Never is it nasty. Frobscottle is sweet and jumbly. He got up from his chair and went to a second huge cupboard. He opened it and took out a glass bottle that must have been 6 feet tall. This liquid inside was pale green, and the bottle was half full. Here is Frobscottle, he cried, holding the bottle up proud and high, as though it contained some rare wine. Delumptious fizzy Frobscottle, she shouted. He gave it a shake, and the green stuff began to fizz like mad. But look, it's fizzing the wrong way, Sophie cried. And indeed, it was. The bubbles, instead of traveling upwards and bursting on the surface, well, they were shooting downwards and bursting at the bottom. A pale green, frothy fizz was forming at the bottom of the bottle. What on earth is you meaning the wrong way? Asked the BFG. Well, in our fizzy drinks, Sophie said, the bubbles always go up and burst at the top. Upwards is the wrong way, cried the BFG. You mustn't ever be having the bubbles going upwards. That's the most flush-bunking rubbish I has ever hearing. Why do you say that? Sophie asked. Why is you asking me why? Cried the BFG, waving the enormous bottle around as though he were conducting an orchestra. You is actually meaning to tell me you cannot see why it is a scrawdy mistake to have the bubbles flying up instead of down? You said it was flush-bunking. Now you say it's scrawdy. Which is it? Sophie asked politely. Both, cried the BFG. It is a flush-bunking and a scrawdy mistake to let the bubbles go upwards. If you can't see why, you must be as quacky as a duckhound. By Ringo, your head must be so full of frog squinkers and buzz wangles, I is frittered if I know how you can think at all. Why shouldn't the bubbles go upward? Sophie asked. I will explain, said the BFG. But tell me first, what name is you calling your Frobscottle by? Well, one is Coke, Sophie said. Another is Pepsi. There are lots of them. And the bubbles is all going up? They all go up, Sophie said. Catastrophe, cried the BFG. Outgoing bubbles is a catastrophe. Will you please tell me why? Sophie said. If you will listen carefully, I will try to explain, said the BFG. But your brain is so full of bug whiffles, I doubt you will ever understand. I'll do my best, Sophie said patiently. Very well, then. When you is drinking this cokey drink of yours, said the BFG, is it going straight down into your tummy? Is that right? Or is it left? It's right, Sophie said. And the bubbles is going also into your tummy, right or left? Right again, Sophie said. And the bubbles is fizzling upwards? Of course, Sophie said. Which means, said the BFG, that they will all come swish whiffling up your throat and out of your mouth and make a felsome belchy burp. Well, yes, that is often true, Sophie said. But what's wrong with a little burp now and again? It's sort of fun. Burping is filthsome, the BFG said. Us giants is never doing it. But with your drink, Sophie said, what was it you called it? Frobscottle, said the BFG. So with frobscottle, Sophie said, the bubbles in your tummy will be going downwards, and that could have a far nastier result. Why nasty? Asked the BFG, frowning. Well, because, Sophie said, blushing a little, well, if they go down instead of up, they'll be coming out somewhere else with an even louder and ruder noise. A whiz-popper, cried the BFG, beaming at her. Us giants is making whiz-poppers all the time. Whiz-popping is a sign of happiness. It is music to our ears. You surely is not telling me that a little whiz-popping is forbidden among human beings. Well, it's considered extremely rude, Sophie said. But you is whiz-popping, is you not, now and again? Asked the BFG. Well, everyone is whiz-popping, if that's what you call it, Sophie said. Kings and queens are whiz-popping. Presidents are whiz-popping. Glamorous film stars are whiz-popping. Little babies are whiz-popping. But where I come from, it's not polite to talk about it. Redunculous, said the BFG. If everyone's making whiz-poppers, then why do they not talk about it? Why is now having a swiggle of this delicious frobscottle, and you will see the happy result. The BFG shook the bottle vigorously. The pale green stuff fizzed and bubbled. He removed the cork and took a tremendous gurgling swig. It's glummy, he cried. I love it. For a few moments, the big friendly giant stood quite still, and a look of absolute ecstasy began to spread across his long, wrinkly face. Then, suddenly, the heavens opened, and he let fly with a series of the loudest and rudest noises Sophie had ever heard in her life. They reverberated around the walls of the cave like thunder, and the glass jars rattled on the shelves. But most astonishing of all, the force of the explosions actually lifted the enormous giant clear off his feet like a rocket. Whoopee! He cried when he came down to earth again. Now that is whiz-popping for you. Sophie burst out laughing. She couldn't help it. Have some yourself, cried the BFG, tipping the neck of the enormous bottle towards her. Don't you have a cup? Sophie asked. No cups, only bottle. Sophie opened her mouth. And very gently the BFG tipped the bottle forward and poured some of the fabulous frobscottle down her throat. And oh gosh, how delicious it actually was. It was sweet and refreshing. It tasted of vanilla and cream, with just the faintest trace of raspberries on the edge of the flavor. And the bubbles were wonderful. Sophie could actually feel them bouncing and bursting all around her tummy. It was an amazing sensation. It felt as though hundreds of tiny people were dancing a jig inside her and tickling her with their toes. It was lovely. It's lovely, she cried. Just wait, said the BFG, flapping his ears. Sophie could feel the bubbles traveling lower and lower down her tummy. Then, suddenly, inevitably, the explosion came. The trumpet sounded, and she too made the walls of the cavern ring with the sound of music and thunder. Bravo! Shouted the BFG, waving the bottle. You was very good for a beginner. Oh, let's have some more. And that is where I'll stop. Oh, I love it. What a lovely, lovely tale. I just am falling deeply and madly in love with this big friendly giant. God, I wish I had one. Anyway, thank you all for joining me. That was a really fun read. And like I said, get out there and get your poppies. They show our support for our veterans. And I will be back. What day is it today? It is, oh no, it's Tuesday. One week just slips directly into the next. So Thursday, I'll be back again. The BFG is a darling. He is a darling. I'm just in love with him. I mean, like, you know, when you read he's sad, it just makes me want to cry. Like, I know there's a part I saw in the movie that'll come up, and I know I'm going to bawl like a frickin' baby when that happens, you know. And inevitably, in every tale I share, there's always that day where I bawl my eyes out, and I know, because he's just such a sweet, sweet, sweet character. And anyway, so listen, I'm going to let you all go. Have a wonderful evening. And again, I'll see you Thursday. I've been doing, I've kind of announced when I know closer to the time when I'm going to be on, if it's going to be 7:15 or 7:30. So I'll do that again if you're looking for a specific time to join me. Nathan, hi, babe. Thanks for joining. I didn't know you were there. I didn't know you were hiding in there. It only doesn't tell me everybody. I only see people as they pop up to comment, and then it shows me, like, it'll only give me 4 people's faces and kind of scrolls through them. But yeah, it's just so good to see everybody. So like I said, love it. Great work, sweets. Thanks, babe. Love you. Love you all. Have a wonderful night. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. And I will see you on Thursday. I can't wait.